Hey guys, Matt here with Juice Joyrides, and today we're going to be going through the list of modifications and upgrades I've made to my 2022 Sur Ron. I purchased this Sur Ron directly from Lunicycle here in El Segundo, California just about 4 months ago. I paid $4,200 for it. And honestly, when I first got it, I thought it was awesome because, well, it was awesome, and a new Sur Ron is really cool. However, I quickly got the itch to start doing some upgrades, and one thing led to another, and now this bike is about a $6,000 build. And in the next few minutes here, I'm going to break down how much each and every individual part costs to upgrade, whether it's worth it, and any tips or tricks or advice I have for you. So the first thing I should mention, I am 6'5" and I weigh 195 pounds, so this bike in a stock form is a little bit small for me, so some of the first upgrades I made was actually buying this leather Lunicycle seat. First round of upgrades are here. This seat cost me $95 and it's much more comfortable than the original seat. The original seat was like okay, but upgrading to this seat definitely made it a lot more comfortable for me. There's more padding to it, and it actually raised up the seat just a little bit. For $95, this seat has been well worth it for me. And so far it has held up pretty well. The very next thing I did is install these riser bars. These are also from Lunicycle. They cost me $35. I know a lot of people go with the Pro Taper ones, but these ones are sufficient for me, and I've been perfectly happy with them. They basically just lift the bars a little bit and make the bike a lot more comfortable for me to ride. The very next thing I did was buy this peg extension. It's basically just a small bracket here that lowers the pegs down a little bit lower, so I get a little bit more of a full stretch while riding this bike. I bought it from Lunicycle, and also included with that extension was this stabilizer bar down here, which is really important so that if you knock the bike over, it doesn't break the brackets down here. For the peg extension and the stabilizer, it was $68 from Lunicycle. And along with the peg extender to help this bike fit me better, I also ordered the seat extender, which raises the seat up and moves it back just a little bit. I bought this online for $140. The seat extender was actually the first modification I made that there were some trade-offs. The benefit is it raised the seat up, obviously, and made the bike more comfortable. There were two downsides though. By raising the seat up, you're raising the center of mass. And obviously having a lower center of mass on a bike is better for performance. The other downside to the seat extender is I felt like it made the bike look worse. You had to install this piece on the lid of the battery that made it look like it just doesn't quite close all the way, and it made it look a little bit goofy. But even with these two trade-offs, I felt like it was worth it to get the seat extender because of the increased comfort. So just those modifications alone made this bike a lot more comfortable for me to ride. For me personally, I do a lot of street riding and I ride on public trails as well. I do keep it responsible. But the very next thing I did was remove this front fender. I think it just makes the bike look a whole lot better. And you know, it looks like a motorcycle, let's be honest. But when I first removed that fender, I felt like it just really kind of made it look less like a dirt bike. After that, the next thing I did was I started doing some sticker deletes. So I removed the stickers down here off of the fork arms. I think it just looks a lot cleaner. Not that this bike is particularly clean right now, it's actually pretty dirty in terms of dirt being on it. I also removed the sticker down here off of the rear suspension piece. And I think that this bike just looks really good, basically all blacked out. In addition to removing a lot of the stickers from the bike, I also actually put some electrical tape to cover up the branding from some of the other pieces I bought. And from a distance, you actually cannot tell at all that there's tape on there covering up those logos, but it just makes it have a really clean look. Additionally, up here on the riser bars, I did the same thing with black tape. This one's kind of getting messed up a little bit from my phone holder, but pretty much for the most part, you can't even tell that there's tape on there. Also, I should mention I removed the license plate holder thing down here because I guess it makes it look a little bit less like you're riding around without plates. So for the next month or two, I had a really good time riding around on that setup, but then the very next mod I did was upgrade to the BAC4000. Got the BAC4000 controller upgrade, about to take this thing all apart. See if I can install it. It cost me $971 to buy the BAC4000 controller, and it also came with the Egg Rider display to replace the original display, and on top of that it came with a BMS bypass kit. And once you crack open the battery and install that BMS bypass kit, this thing gets a lot more power. I actually ran the BAC4000 on the stock battery without using the bypass kit, and it didn't make a huge difference. But once I put the BMS bypass on the battery, it made a world of difference. So $971 for that BAC4000 with the Egg Rider and all that is a huge price, but it makes a huge difference. It takes this thing from like 5,000 watts up to 7,000 watts is what I'm running on it now. It totally transforms the bike into a new machine. So the next thing I did is I got these Warp 9 pegs. I decided to go with the black ones, although I did debate getting gold to match the chain. I'm really glad I did go with the black ones. Honestly, I wish I would have upgraded the pegs way before I did, because I didn't realize like how bad the original ones are until you get some good ones. These ones just really dig into your shoe and they stick really well. But perhaps even more important than that for my riding style, they're just wider and it's really more comfortable having a bigger surface area to put your foot down on the peg. The foot pegs cost $99 and I'd say they were worth every penny. After that, the very next modification I did was actually remove the brake sensors. And to do that, basically there was just a wire plugged in right here. And all you really got to do is pretty much just unscrew it. And then what I did is I just have them kind of stashed down in here and buried away. Also, you'll notice I'm missing my ignition right now. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. The reason I removed my brake sensors is actually so I can still use my brakes while applying throttle. It gives me the ability to do burnouts. So basically I can lock up the front brake and lock the front tire and do a burnout on the back tire. I know, really responsible, right? Additionally, I just really didn't like the way the bike felt when it was cutting out power when I touched the brakes. And as you can probably notice, I do not have the stock tires on this bike anymore. I pretty much burned up the original ones, doing burnouts, and really just the power of this bike, they burned up within basically about 2 months. As you can see, the tread has worn down significantly. The original tires are pretty much meant for off-road riding, and I did mostly on-road riding, and I wasn't going easy on the throttle. So the rear tire was pretty significantly worn down within 3 months. So the tires I decided to go with are the Shinko 244. The new tires for the Sur Ron have arrived. You can see right away they're a little bit taller. The reason I decided to get these tires is because they're more suited to my style riding. They're kind of like 70% on pavement riding, 30% off-road riding. Also, another big reason why I got these tires is because they fit on the original wheels, and I wasn't ready to buy new wheels just yet. I needed to replace the rear tire anyway, and it was $49 for each tire, so these added up to $98 for the set. I should point out that these tires do weigh significantly more than the stock tire. They're like 6 pounds and some change ounces, while the stock tires are like 4 pounds and some change ounces. So putting these Shinko 244 tires on the Sur Ron actually makes a pretty big difference. It's a big difference in rotational mass, so I could tell that it slowed down the acceleration of the Sur Ron when I installed them. Also, when I was popping wheelies, I could notice the front end would come down a lot harder when I let off the throttle. These Shinko 244 tires are actually quite a bit taller and wider than the stock tires, so it brings the whole bike up a little bit higher off the ground, which personally I like that for my tall height. And another thing is they're just a lot more meaty than the original tires, so they absorb the bumps in the ground, in the pavement a lot better, and it makes for a more smooth, comfortable ride. The next modification I did is the hand grips up here. They are Pro Taper, and the reason I got these is honestly mostly just because they're black. Despite the little bit of gray right here, it's actually pretty subtle and not that noticeable. But overall, I think that these black grips just look a lot better on the Sur Ron. That's pretty much all blacked out. In terms of the grip, they are a little bit grippier and better, and for 15 bucks, I'd say it was well worth it. The next modification I did is install new brake pads. The brake pads I decided to go with are the Shimano H03A resin. Installing these brake pads is actually super easy and well worth it. The big fins up here on top help the Shimano brake pads dissipate that heat even better. And of course, I put the same exact brake pads up here on the front. Each set of pads cost $33, so it was $66 for the front and rear pads. Again, I'd say that these brakes are well worth the cost because it gives you a lot more confidence in your stopping, and that's really important when you're riding this thing fast. So the next modification I did is install a 54 tooth sprocket. Along with that 54 tooth sprocket, I needed to buy a few more chain links so it'd fit. The sprocket I bought cost $64. I have a link to it below this video. And then I had to buy 4 links to add on to this chain so that it would fit. The chain links cost $13. By putting the bigger sprocket on there, obviously you get better acceleration at the sacrifice of top speed. For me, this brought my bike from a top speed of about 53 miles an hour down to 49. However, the trade-off was well worth it for me because it really just livens up this bike a lot on the low end. So if you're looking for acceleration and you don't care about top speed, that's my personal style of riding. I really like the zippiness of this 54 tooth. So far, it's been well worth it and I'm happy with it. So while I was replacing that sprocket, I realized how bad my chain was. The original chain is an O-ring chain. You could tell that there was a lot of room for improvement. So what I did is I ordered the Renthal R1 chain. This is the 110 tooth version of it. It cost me about $55. As soon as I installed the chain, it immediately brought this bike from a top speed of 49 miles per hour back up to a top speed of 53 miles per hour. So it definitely improved the top speed. It also reduced the noise of the bike, and it made the bike feel just a lot more zippy and a lot more responsive, and it just feels better with this chain. I definitely find the new chain worth it. So the very next modification I am making is actually replacing the ignition, and that's just because I broke it. So right now I just have it basically hot wired. So moving forward, the elephant in the living room is the stock battery. And I have been looking at replacing the stock battery with possibly a 72 volt or maybe a bigger 60 volt. Pretty much my goal is more power. And also it would be nice to have more power for a longer range. Also, I would definitely consider some different wheels. I guess the stock wheels aren't very good compared to what you can get. And also your tire selection is pretty limited on the stock wheels. Also, I should mention I have more in-depth videos on a lot of the products I mentioned in this video. So at this point, I've spent $1,741 in modifications on my Sur Ron. And including the original cost of the $4,200 Sur Ron bike, this brings my total cost to $5,941 for this bike. This Sur Ron is easily one of the most fun toys I've ever purchased. The thing that makes this thing so awesome is just because you can take it anywhere. You can ride on the street with traffic, you can take it out on bike trails, and of course I'm not claiming you can do any of this legally necessarily, but it can be done and I haven't had any trouble with the law so far. I pretty much operate under the don't be a jerk rule and things are going smooth. So as I mentioned, I do have links below this video to all the modifications I mentioned in this video. If this has been beneficial or entertaining to you, give me a thumbs up. Any questions or comments you have, please leave down below this video in the comment section, and click subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in my next video.